Hi everyone, my name is Rojas. I'm a community artist with Muse Arts, and I just want to say thank you for stopping by and checking out this video, and a big thank you as well to the Happening team for the invitation to participate. So today we're going to be making seed bombs. They are also referred to as seed balls or earth balls, whatever you want to call them. They're essentially these compact little spheres that have seeds in them. They're normally made from compostable or organic materials. And the idea of them is that they're protecting the seeds inside so that when you plant them outside, depending on where you're planting them, it's going to give the seeds a greater chance of survival. So this idea of the seed bombs is something that's part of a wider practice that is referred to as guerrilla gardening. And guerrilla gardening is essentially the greening of public space. So it's a response to witnessing all of the abandoned and underused public space in the city, public and private, and it's an alternative scenario. So guerrilla gardening proposes using these spaces and making them productive for the community, or giving them the love that they deserve. This can be done in a whole bunch of ways, like for example, making an edible garden that is going to feed your neighbors, or creating public art out of living organisms like moss, or even just planting flowers in a public space. So while this idea of guerrilla gardening originated around the 1970s, the act of making a seed bomb is actually much older than that. When I was looking up some information for this project to share with you, I came across this amazing article by Food Share Toronto, which I can share as well with you. And in the article they talk about guerrilla gardening and the green revolution, the gardening revolution that they proposed, but at the same time they also talk about the origins of the seed bomb. So according to their information, the seed bomb most likely originated within Native American First Nation communities, and they would use them during planting seasons. This technique was later popularized by Masanobu Fukuoka, who was a Japanese farmer, and his idea was to grow crops without the need of human intervention. So trying to have humans out of the process as much as possible. So as we go through this process of creating a seed bomb and then going outside to plant it or toss it somewhere, it is important to remember whose land we're standing on and who are the original stewards of it. So the territory that I'm coming at you from right now is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Wendat peoples. So I invite you to also learn about the origins of where you're standing, where you're taking on this project, and to also look into the species of native plants to your area and just research every single seed that you're going to plant to make sure that it's not an invasive species and that it's okay to plant it where you live. So throughout this process, I invite you to take all of that in, keep it very present in you as you carry through this project, and even further when you go outside to plant. I'm going to share with you the materials that you're going to need. It's all super simple, easy stuff that you probably have at home. So the first and most important thing, you're going to want to get a bowl where you can just have your paper mixture. And then now you're also going to need the paper. So I have here some shredded paper that I shredded a little while ago, but I also have a lot of scraps of colorful paper that I've just kept from different projects in the past, so this is a perfect chance to use them. You're also going to need some water, just enough to cover the paper that you have in your bowl. You're going to need a mesh strainer or an old piece of t-shirt or cheesecloth or anything that you can use to strain the water out of your paper pulp. A blender or a food processor or anything that you can use to mash the paper together. And some seeds. So I have this packet of pollinator seeds that I bought locally from a company called Urban Harvest. And they have a lot of beautiful local native species. There's other things that you can add to your mixture as well. I'm gonna add a little bit of bone meal to mine, but it works really well to give your plants a head start. You can also add different spices that you might have in your cabinet already. Turmeric and cinnamon. They're also gonna help protect your seed because they have natural antifungal and antibacterial properties. So all of that being said, there's multiple ways to make seed bombs at home. Some of the more traditional ways of doing them are actually made of clay and compost. this paper pulp method I find is just very simple and easy to use, and it's made with things that you probably already have. So once you have all your materials together, let's look at the first part of the process. General rule of thumb, or what some people recommend, is to use about the equivalent of like 2 or 3 sheets of paper. Of course, feel free to do as much as you want. Now we're gonna take our water and we're gonna pour it on our paper collection, just enough until it's like completely submerged. So now we can do a couple of things. We can either let it sit and leave it like a few hours so that the paper gets really soft and it's easier to make into a pulp. Especially if you don't have a blender, this is a good idea because you just kind of let it sit and the paper slowly starts to dissolve. It makes it easier to mash. If you do have a blender, you can choose to just pour this mixture straight into the blender as it is, or you can let it sit for a couple of hours and just let it get a little bit soft. So I'm gonna let this sit for about 2 to 3 hours and then we'll come back and make our paper pulp. Okay, now we're in my kitchen and I have my mixture and I'm gonna blend it together and time to add. These have been drying for about 24 hours. So now we're gonna go plant them outside.